In Venezuela, citizens in Caracas mobilized to demand the immediate release of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and First Lady Cilia Flores, kidnapped by the United States on January 3rd. The President of the United States, Donald Trump, announced the imposition of tariffs on European countries with a military presence in Greenland. And UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called on the nations of the world to unite to fight against threats that seek to undermine world peace and disrupt the multilateral system. Hello and welcome to From the South, from the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba. My name is Pablo Micheliche. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In Venezuela, citizens in Caracas mobilized to demand the immediate release of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and First Lady Cilia Flores, kidnapped by the United States on January 3rd. On Saturday, different social movements rallied in Caracas to denounce the United States aggression against Venezuela. They also condemned the violation of international law and the United Nations Charter by the Trump administration. In response to the military action on January 3rd, Venezuelans remain on the streets in defense of sovereignty, peace, and regional stability. Also in Venezuela, recreational and cultural activities were held in Ciudad Tuna, Caracas, a place that was bombarded by the United States government in the early hours of January 3rd. More details follow in the following report.
The Ciudad Tuna housing complex, built as a part of the Great Mission Vivienda Venezuela, is located within the military installations for Fuerte Tuna in southern Caracas. About 5,000 families live there, and that witnessed the bombardment and used military incursion.
I still haven't gotten over it. I might get through it, but I don't think it's going to be easy. Waking up to the attack, to the bombardment, seeing the planes so close, opening the window and watching them circle around, swooping like vultures, and launching their missiles, the sound was horrific. I was alone with my two daughters and granddaughters, and we didn't know what to do.
The recreational activities were called Our Culture is Peace and were aimed at children, adolescents, and older adults, with the goal of providing them with entertainment and leisure.
There are a lot of traumatized people here, especially the grandparents and children, because of what we went through. This activity seems perfect for us because the community really needed it. It was a horrible, thunderous noise that's still in my mind. It was intense, but we are overcoming it, and little by little we will get through this. I know God is with us, and I believe we will get the president and his wife back. Our demand is that our president Nicolas Maduro and the first combatant be freed, and this is further proof that we do not have weapons. The farmers here, we are cultivators, there are many neighbors, our weapons can be our musical instruments, painting, poetry, and that is what will keep us, among other things, in the ongoing struggle.
This location houses the Ezequiel Zamora Commune Circuit, which under the slogan, Our Culture is Peace, highlight the peaceful nature of Venezuelans.
We are a Venezuela of peace, of love, of culture, of education and of respect, and after what they did to us, we were not prepared, and we will never be prepared. I experienced it, and it still gives me a kind of nostalgia, fear, because seeing the expressions of my neighbors, the shout of evacuate, seeing the helicopters in front of me invading my space, invading my Venezuela, invading my family, hearing the screams of my neighbors, seeing grandmothers running and others who cannot run, and many came out, even without clothes, and hearing that roar that I still have in my ear.
Something never before seen in our land or in Latin America, a president of the republic being taken from his home, especially a president who has done so much for us, and for this land, together with his wife. Truly, for us Venezuelans. It is something indescribably horrible, and we are standing in struggle for his return.
Y estamos en pie de lucha para su regreso.
El gobierno venezolano procederá a
The
atender
Venezuelan government will proceed to carry out repairs on more than 4,000 homes that were affected by the United States military aggression.
en la Cámara de José Luis Briceño, Leonardo Urrieta, TeleSUR, Caracas, Venezuela.
In Switzerland, international solidarity with Venezuela was expressed outside the United Nations headquarters, where demonstrators demanded an end to external aggression against the country. Social movements gathered outside the United Nations headquarters in Geneva for a large day of international solidarity with Venezuela. Demonstrators called for the freedom of constitutional President Nicolas Maduro and the immediate end to external aggression against the homeland of Simón Bolívar. Under the slogan "Venezuela is not alone," the event reinforced a global appeal to respect Venezuelan sovereignty and to pursue a political solution based on international law, while rejecting what organizers described as complicit silence in the face of ongoing threats. Social movements in Burkina Faso issued an emergency statement announcing before the international community the illegal kidnapping of Venezuelan constitutional president Nicolas Maduro and Congresswoman Cilia Flores. The protest directly blamed the Donald Trump administration for this unprecedented violation of international law and Venezuelan sovereignty. From Africa, they made an urgent call to the peoples of the world to remain on permanent alert and mobilize against this violation of the self-determination of peoples, reaffirming their solidarity with Venezuela. Also in Canada, dozens of people gathered in front of the U.S. consulate in Vancouver in a peaceful demonstration of solidarity with the Venezuelan people. Protesters expressed their rejection of any form of foreign intervention in the internal affairs of the South American country. During the event, several speakers took the floor to denounce the economic sanctions imposed by the United States and other countries on Venezuela, which they described as unilateral coercive measures that mainly affect the civilian population. We changed topic. In Guatemala, inmates at 3 prisons staged riots and took at least 46 people hostage. Guatemala's Interior Minister Marco Antonio Villeda stated that most of the hostages are prison guards and security personnel, emphasizing that so far no deaths or injuries have been reported among those being held. Villeda added that the government will not negotiate with terrorists and plans to regain full control of the penitentiary centers. The Interior Minister also said that disturbances were allegedly coordinated by the Barrio 18 gang, claiming that its leader is seeking to be transferred to another prison in order to obtain better conditions and special treatment. While hostage-taking incidents involving prison guards have occurred in Guatemala in the past, authorities noted that the current number of hostages is significantly higher than in previous cases. Now in Ecuador, the drug scandal involving President Daniel Noboa's family grows, with that network attempting to smuggle over 2 tons of cocaine. The case is known as the Blasty case, as the containers where 2.6 tons of cocaine were found between March 27 and 28 between 2025, according to the anti-drug police, were manipulated and cloned at the Blasty SA company's yard. The area is located at the DP World Sorghum port in the Guayas province and belongs to Noboa Global Companies, which are linked to the national president. Currently, 5 people are detained, and investigations have concluded that Chilean citizen Álvaro Gibernau Becker, husband of Ecuador's first vice president of the assembly, Michel Mancheno, is the manager of the company. Also, Silvia Sanchez, a close friend of Álvaro Noboa, the president's father, is the company's president. Despite this being a flagrant case, the process has been unusually delayed and trial hearings have been postponed multiple times. And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates and much more. We will be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. 64% of U.S. citizens disapprove of President Donald Trump's handling of the economy, according to the latest poll results published on the subject in the country. The study conducted by PBS, NPR, and Marist, the prestigious organizations in media and polling, reveals that only 36% of the population agrees with the White House's economic management. This figure shows that since December 2025, when the research was conducted, approval has dropped to 38%, the lowest since the end of President Trump's first term. However, the data is not surprising. Currently, 7 out of 10 citizens consider the cost of living unaffordable, and 45% of citizens are concerned about rising prices. Meanwhile, in the United States, a federal judge in Minnesota has imposed new restrictions on how immigration agents may interact with demonstrators, following escalating tensions between protesters and federal officers in the state. U.S. District Judge Kate M. Menendez ruled that immigration agents are prohibited from retaliating against individuals who are engaged in peaceful and unobstructive protest activity. The order also bans the use of pepper spray and other crowd dispersal tools when responding to constitutionally protected speech. In addition, the ruling states that the federal agents may not stop or detain protesters who are in vehicles unless they are forcibly obstructing or interfering with official duties. The decision aims to safeguard First Amendment rights while clarifying the limits of federal enforcement actions during public demonstrations. The President of the United States, Donald Trump, announced the imposition of tariffs on European countries with a military presence in Greenland amid the White House ambitions to take control of the island. The U.S. President detailed that starting February 1st, the NATO countries will have to pay a 10% tariff on all products sent to the United States, while starting in June, the tariff will increase to 25%. These actions are being taken in light of the Trump administration plan to annex Greenland for its anti-air defense project known as the Golden Dome. In this context, the geopolitical tension over Greenland has sparked a firm reaction from France. President Emmanuel Macron called the U.S. tariff threats against European countries involved in military exercise in Greenland unacceptable, announcing that Europe will respond in a unified manner. Meanwhile, Greenlandic political parties are demanding the right to decide their future, rejecting both U.S. annexation and the Danish dependency. Precisely in Europe, a unified response is being prepared to the U.S. tariff threats. The European Union has called an emergency meeting of ambassadors from its 27 countries following U.S. President Donald Trump's announcement to impose tariffs on several European partners who have sent military forces to Greenland. Trump set an initial tariff of 10% on countries such as Denmark, France, Germany, and the United Kingdom, which will increase to 25% until an agreement is reached for the purchase of the island. This imperative measure by the U.S. seeks to extend its control over resource-rich and strategically important territories, undermining the sovereignty of peoples and international law. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called on the nations of the world to unite to fight against threats and seek to undermine world peace and disrupt the multilateral system. Ahead of the international organization during an event held in London on Saturday night in commemoration of the 80th anniversary of the United Nations General Assembly, delivered a speech calling on the countries of the world to unite and fight for the preservation of multilateral values in favor of peace, understanding and mutual respect. Guterres called this year the beginning of a new chapter in international history, which requires a perspective of interconnectivity and solidarity. At the end of his speech, the Secretary General highlighted the organization's role in the fight against the proliferation of conflicts, support for sources of eco-sustainable development, and the protection of human rights.
For 8 decades, the General Assembly has been the place the world comes together to help advance peace, promote sustainable development, and safeguard human rights. By its nature, the work of the General Assembly may not always be straightforward or seamless, but it is a mirror of our world, its divisions and its hopes. and it is the stage on which our shared story played out. Today, we are entering a new chapter of that story. In this moment when the values of multilateralism are being chipped away, it is up to us, in our capacity as professionals, as voters, and as members of organizations like the UNA UK, to take a stand. More than ever, the world needs civil society movements that are fearless and persistent, that make it impossible for leaders to look away. The General Assembly, which we celebrate today, exists because of a simple truth: humanity is strongest when we stand as one.
In this regard, the President of the General Assembly, Annalena Baerbock, warned of the worrying violation of the principles of the United Nations Charter by member states and permanent members of the Security Council.
I can't stop thinking, how many blows can an international order, can our United Nation endure? For can any country truly sleep in peace if we simply accept that more and more member states, including some permanent members of the Security Council, violate the Charter's core principles? When compromise shifts from mutual accommodation to the slow erosion or the deliberate dismantling of the very foundations of this institution, it is no longer compromise, but compromising.
And we have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you will be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Financial break, don't go away. Welcome back. At least 3 people died and 7 others were injured in a fire at the Gul Plaza shopping center in Karachi, southern Pakistan. Local sources confirmed that blaze started on the ground floor of the shopping center and spread rapidly throughout the building, trapping several people on the upper floors. Most of the store owners were closing or had already left the center when the fire broke out. Although the official cause of the fire has not been determined, authorities say the flames spread rapidly after passing through an area where merchants had stored imported clothing and plastic household items, which made it difficult to investigate the causes of the incident. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei condemned the criminal actions of U.S. President Donald Trump against his country. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei blamed the U.S. president for the dozens of deaths and damage caused during the protests in the Persian nation. The Supreme Leader asserted that Washington's goal is to destroy Iran. He also urged state security forces to stand firm and defend the Iranian people.
The President of the United States of America is a criminal responsible for the human and material losses and the damage inflicted on the Iranian people for being involved in the management and direction of the latest sedition.
Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei denounced Western-owned news agencies for exaggerating and ignoring the multitudes who defend the system.
Global news agencies owned by Zionists exaggerate the movements of a limited and corrupt group and ignore the multitudes that came out in support of the system.
In Iraq, hundreds of people mobilized to express their support for the Iranian people in the face of interventionist threats from the United States. The demonstrators reaffirmed their firm stance, rejecting the conspiracies of the United States and Israel in the region. Under the slogan, "We are with you, our destiny is one and the same," they waved Iranian flags in solidarity with their neighboring country. These demonstrations took place in response to the recent unrest in Iran, attributed to external players, which resulted in several deaths and material damage in cities across the country. In Palestine, citizens denounced the Israeli authorities and demanded compliance with the peace agreements in the Gaza Strip. In the run-up to the second phase of negotiations between Israel and Hamas, Gazans are denouncing the Zionist army's failure to comply with initial agreements, including the withdrawal of troops. In this regard, they urge the United States as the country promoting the peace plan to demand that Tel Aviv withdraw its military from the borders and comply with the negotiations. To date, Israeli forces remain deployed in half of the Gaza Strip, while Palestinians are crammed into small areas under extreme conditions. In Uganda, the Election Commission declared Yoweri Museveni the winner of the presidential elections with 71% of the vote. 81-year-old Museveni was elected by the people for a seventh presidential term, which will allow him to remain in power until 2031. The results were revealed 5 days after internet access was cut off, according to the government, as a security measure and to prevent misinformation. For their part, African observers assured that the electoral process was conducted in a totally peaceful manner. And with that information, we have come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And you can also join us on social media. We're on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, my name is Pablo Michelice. Thank you for watching.